It seems like every time someone sits down in any type of gathering with the United States of America, the majority of the people there will say that they have never heard of the global reset. They will say they have never heard of the banking system preparing themselves to close down. They would say that they have never heard of anything that's going on right now until that one particular moment that they're sitting down to talk to all the gathering people. You know, America has got to be either the most brain-dead nation on the planet, or they just plain old lost. For real. They're lost. It is no way that you could be on this planet Earth and claim to be so uninformed or unknowledgeable of what's going on as the United States of America claims. You would be surprised every time the light comes on, and we're talking about that light bulb idea. America's the only nation that does not have any idea of what's going on. They don't have no idea of what they should be asking for that should be going on or that should happen. They have no suggestions. When sitting down with all the other nations, where all the other nations come together to brainstorm about a solution to what's going on, America cannot even come up with any type of would-be suggestion. None. Because everyone in America claims to not be informed, or they have never heard, or they're not knowledgeable of what's going on. And I find that hard to believe myself, being that around the year of approximately around 1880, notice I'm taking you back in time. Around the year of 1880, America began to do something that they call synchronize the whole entire would-be United States of America to include, come up with something they call the census. The census was nothing more than an index moment of time where they were to account for everyone that was in the United States of America, everyone. By the 1980s, when all of that began, people were moving. They were seriously, vastly moving toward Western, would-be so-called civilization. And this Western civilization caught everyone on the planet as a surprise at that moment. But since that moment, everyone else has become very much knowledgeable of why it took place and why it's so important to complete it. Yet and still, the only nation now that still claims to not have no knowledgeable of that is the United States of America. The 1980s came, we're talking from 1880 to 1980, and America was still claiming to be a nation that was not knowledgeable of what was going on. Ronald Reagan came in your time in 1980. He began to break down walls between all nations to include Russia. The Eastern Berlin Wall fell. It came down. They began to do nothing more than chisel at what is known as the would-be Great China Wall. And yet still, you have America to this very day that claims they have heard nothing about it. They don't know where it came from, and they have no knowledge of what's going on. That's the United States of America. Now, here's what everybody now is looking at all of the would-be areas that we classify as the United Nations. The United Nations headquarters has found itself relocating, and locating itself back on a relocation to the United States of America by way of New York City, New York. And right now, New York is about the brokest state in America. The brokest. No funds whatsoever. And they're trying to receive or to gather these funds or either collect these funds by any means necessary and by whomever or whatever they can. They're trying to do nothing more than collect enough corn that they might be able to put themselves on the map as an existing state to the Union, to the American Union. Which is why I'm listening to our host right now. And I really don't care anything about Texas now having to deal with some way of protecting some so-called would-be southern border. Because Texas is not just protecting the southern border, but it's actually protecting the southern border, the northern border, the eastern, and the western border right now is being protected by the only republic in what is known as the nation of the 5 unincorporated nations. Right now, they only have one nation that's classified as a state that could even find itself being classified as some would-be so-called republic, and that is Texas. Again, I repeat, in 1845, the governor of Texas, his name was James Pinckney Henderson. he took the first oath of office whereby they might even classify the state of Texas or the Republic of Texas as having a governor. And that governor, being that it was said that he annexed Texas in 1846, there is no record whereby he would have ever attempted to enter Texas into that union or any other union. It just didn't happen. All of this has been already identified, notified, verified as of the year 2000. It's all was verified. And while George W. Bush, being in the White House, made sure that he was given the reference based upon the fact that he himself was placed in the State House of Texas between one man by the name of James Pinckney Henderson and another man by the name of Wayne Henderson. And he was placed as a governor in between those two men in the state of Texas, which he was also informed that Texas was a republic and it always would remain a republic. And it never would be able to be changed because no one never, ever annexed, did they ever attempt to annex Texas or to unionize Texas. It just didn't happen. And this is the part now where you find the United States of America is claiming to be uninformed or they unknowledgeable of what took place because they just don't want to admit that these things never happened. And it gives them some way of believing that they have this power to control based upon the fact that they're claiming now if Texas is not the largest state in America, they claim it to be at least the one that has the most people for its being able to claim the majority of the people. And I know, giving the numbers that are on paper, it does not actually give this recognition. As everyone knows where the mobility of people at. I know that's why the would-be so-called Stargate moved itself from what was known as New York City to Texas. That was under one known as Elon Musk. He moved it. The NRA, the National Rifle Association, they moved their location of headquarters from New York to Texas. Everyone began to move the major, large corporations out of New York to Texas. The only person that didn't do that was one known as John, to the world he's known as Donald John Trump of the Trump Towers. He began to move his out of New York, mainly in Florida. Knowing that Florida was a place that was classified to be where all of the would-be so-called original Native Indians were moving from. They were moving from Florida, and they was moving back westward, which would have been Texas. And the majority of them was classified as Hebrew Israelites. And most of them moved from Florida, crossed what would have been known as the Red River, which is known as the Red River between Louisiana and Texas and Mississippi, which is classified the Mississippi River. And that would have been the River Jordan. And all of the would-be Israelites moved themselves westward of that would-be so-called river, not eastward. That is why when talking about the red people of the so-called would-be American Native American, it always was written that there was no red man east of the Mississippi River, neither were they westward of the Mississippi River, because they didn't exist then. Those are a bunch of people that were mixed up. They came from the Chinese that were working on the railroad, the Japanese that were working on the railroad, and the blacks that were enslaved and imprisoned to work on the railroad. And they all began to mingle. And that's where we get the slant-eyed Native American, red, kind of dark-skinned Indians. That's where they come from. Now, I'm only clearing this up is because the United States of America always wants Dr. Henderson to bring them all this great information, but they do nothing to carry it to the right location of doing nothing more than informing. They don't inform anybody of it. They just get great information. 90% of them would go on to make their own YouTube channel and talk about nothing. Right now, we're in the midst of nothing more than a depression for the United States of America. It's falling apart. And everybody wants his or her YouTube channel so they can talk about Puff Daddy and all the other so-called men that are falling from grace, which you have to understand, again, everybody know that Clyde Davis was nothing more than a mentor that would have been Puff Daddy under his bed and under his blanket, under his sheets. You thought I was going to say under his arm. Never going to happen. He took him under his sheets and blankets. He saw a pretty black young man, boy, and he loved that type of lifestyle, sleeping with young, pretty men. I'm just calling it so we can get off the YouTube channel. You can stop being angry at those men because they were victims to begin with. They were victims. Victims. They weren't perpetrators. They were victims. They got victimized. And as it has been written, just like you've heard some of them out there talking now, if you have been victimized, you will become one who will victimize others. But right now, we're at the verge of a major global reset. And the people in the United States of America don't have a clue, as they would say. We haven't been informed. We haven't heard anything about it. No one has ever told us about this. Let me help them out again. Being that I am known as the ad hoc Universal World Court Chief Justice, ignorance is not an exception to the law. And only historical facts will remain as law as long as we all so shall live. That's a fact. It's either truth or it's a lie. It's either life or death. But no one is going to give you a ticket that says ignorance on it and by chance allow you to collect $200 and not go to jail. That's not about to happen. We're just giving you truth. You can either accept it or you can reject it. Everyone out there with YouTube now claiming to be king this and emperor this and queen this, they have no clue what's going on. And those of them that do are only trying to exploit the people. And somehow, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're planning on gathering enough money that they can go somewhere and hide out for a few years until after the fallout of the Great Wars. I don't know what they're planning on doing. You have to ask them. But it should be obvious now to the world that had they been somebody, ask them, are they already indexed? I would tell you that the majority of them will tell you yes. And I would have to be honest with them that yes, the record reflects that they have already indexed. But they're leading others to destruction. How can you index yourself and lead others to destruction is beyond me. I have no clue. You would have to ask them that. And a few of them have called in, well, you can unindex me then. Listen, you idiot. You knew when you indexed that there was no such thing as being unindexed. You were told that once you was indexed, you would be recognized all over the world. You wasn't being recognized as some empress or some queen or some chief, or to be able to even develop some system to make somebody else a king or an empress. You can't do it. You don't have the power to do that. You don't have the authority to do that, and you're not going to receive it. I'm just putting this out there because we got so many people now claiming to be something on the YouTube, and they all got YouTube channels, and they all collecting money for whatever reason. I have no clue, especially when we know that the dollar has no value. What are they collecting it for? I don't know. Maybe they're going to build a doggy park big enough for all the dogs that don't go to heaven to have a place to hang out. I don't know what they're doing. You ask them. But they're wasting your time. They're wasting your time. They are liars. They're manipulators. They went to the full extent of trying to extort. It's not going to work for them because the world is real. 198 nations, 9 billion plus people on the planet. And they're claiming to be something that they're not, or they have the title to the land. They wouldn't know what a title to the land. There is no title to the land. You either got blood in the land or you don't. Title to the land. Are you crazy? Title came from that Caucasian system in which you're claiming to not be a part of. Nobody recognizes their title. Nobody recognizes their so-called would-be nobility. Nobody recognizes that. The monarchs don't even get that authority anymore. What do you think the monarchs are fighting about now? They're wondering, how did they lose their popularity? How did they lose the number? How did they lose being the people's choice? How did they lose the popular would-be vote? How did they lose that? They're trying to find it out. And we got idiots out here that's less than that, who can't even get together, get 80 to 100 people on a phone call, and you're claiming to be someone in charge. We don't have to do that. We have the paperwork. We got everybody's files. We got everybody's files from 198 nations. What do we need to be talking to you about you being in charge of anything? And for all of you that are out there wearing these would-be Indian bonnets with all of these feathers, let me help you out. No one wore that but the Lakotas. And if you're in the black skin, you are not a Lakota because you are not considered to be a red Indian. You're not on the Dawes list for a reason. You're never going to be on the Dawes list. Maybe the dumb list, but not the Dawes list, you're never going to be on. because the Lakotas were at war. They were at war with a system, not a people. You are not a Cherokee because Cherokees don't exist on this planet. They never have, never will. The Cherokees, we feel disrespect when you come talking about a Cherokee. Are you saying Cherokee or Parakeet? Because you're repeating everything they said. And they are the unrighteous. They have no clue who we are. They have no clue where we came from. They have no clue how we came to be. And most of them that read the Holy Bible, their reading is based upon some would-be Billy Graham's commentation, Billy Graham's interpretation of the book of laws. They reading his commentary. No offense, Graham family, but you should explain to them, your daddy had no clue what the law was really all about. Or he would have known that incest was a crime against humanity, period. Stay with me. I don't care who gets angry. It's a fact. And all of the melanated people out there, I just don't understand you. What do we have to do? Are you one of those that got dropped out of your crib on your head? You had to be. Mama, why did you drop the baby? Daddy, why did you allow the door to be slammed on the baby's head? Because they just don't get it. We're not going to follow you down. I'm not going to make no collections. I'm not going to sit you down. I'm not going to go through your would-be so-called finance and tell you that you got to pay 10 or 20%. I'm not going to take you into some would-be so-called huge, big, extravagant would-be so-called building and call it a church or a temple or a center or any of those kind of things. I'm not going to do it. Don't have time to do that. I'll leave that to TDJ. I'll leave that to the Creflo Dollar and the George Myers and the Benny Hins. I'll leave that to them. Let them do that. They do well at collecting money like that. We don't have time for that. We got people losing their lives, and we're here to save them. I came to save, not to be saved. I came to serve, not to be served. And all of those of you who think, well, he's a nobody, if he don't want anything from anybody, you keep thinking that. Because I'm going to show you what I came for. I came for your soul. Either your soul is going to be with me and my Father in heaven, I'm going to cast it in hell. Go ahead, trust me. I'm waiting. Your mothers and fathers, some of them are waiting for help. You better get to praying to them. You better go into your secret closet. Not that one that you hid out in while wanting to transgender yourself. I'm talking about the closet you should have been talking in secret to God. That's the closet you need to go back to. Because if you think you're about to get out of this world without giving your soul, not going to happen. You can give it to Lucifer, or you can bring it back to my Father. For me, that's not my call. That's on you. It's either truth or it's a lie. It's life or it's death. You're either hot or you're cold. There's no in between. I'm going to take a break because I know for a fact there's a lot of you out there that still don't believe, but you will. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that he is who he say he is and there is no other. And every tongue that don't, I guarantee them that they're going to be tasting hell on both ends. Let us all do ourselves a favor and take a short break.